We're going to show a little promo video that Adobe made for us first, and then we'll talk about making the show and how Adobe Creative Cloud helps us make the show as good as it can be. So.
This is Paperboard, and you're tuned into the Fresh Mix Rap playlist. Long live Fresh.
Atlanta is a show on FX that's executive produced and written by Donald Glover, and he plays Ernie Marks, who is a Princeton dropout who returns to his hometown of Atlanta and decides he wants to manage his cousin's rap career.
Let's do it again, and just like this time, like you're at a party and everything's crazy.
We are in the Post facility of Atlanta, which is a single-story house in Hollywood with the windows blacked out.
The New Yorker just did a profile on Atlanta. They describe the editing facilities as a trap house. If you're familiar with the show, a trap house is basically a drug house.
If I were passing by and didn't know what this place was, I'd be scared of it.
People have printed out memes. There's a whole room that has memes on the wall. We call it the meme room. It's a weird little editing crash pad.
As soon as we got picked up to series and we knew it was going to be our show, it was kind of not even a discussion. Everyone was like, yeah, we want to cut a premiere.
The reason I took the job on Atlanta is I heard it was Donald Glover and Hiro Murai. It being in premiere was just kind of like the icing on the cake.
I edit the show with Isaac, and even though we're responsible for our own episodes, we weigh in a lot on each other's cuts, and I steal a lot of ideas from him.
Our skill sets are very different and complementary, and a lot of times they overlap.
I really like working on Premiere Pro because it eliminates a lot of the steps between conceiving of an idea and executing it. It allows us more time to sort of sit with the footage, react to what we've done, think about it.
It feels like an extension of my brain. I don't have to think about how I'm going to do something rather than just think about what I'm going to do.
I feel like I'm able to work faster. I'm able to get an idea out of my brain faster with Premiere.
You staying?
Damn, is you the landlord or something?
As an editor, one of the things that gave me confidence in Premiere was the way that it deals with sound. One of those tools is the Essential Sound panel. In some ways, the kind of moments and the feelings of Atlanta are as important or more important than the actual events that are taking place on screen than the script. And in order to really sell those moments and feelings in post, I needed a software that I knew had the flexibility to create them.
As an assistant editor, the two things that are most important to me are stability and speed. Most of our VFX are seamless. So a lot of what we do here in-house will be a split screen. We also will temp out muzzle flashes or phone comps. The tools that we have in Premiere allow us to do that.
You wanna turn that music back on?
Yeah, sure.
Yeah.
I really like working on Atlanta because I feel like we're able to make the best possible show that we want to make without concern for notes or selling anything. And because there's so few of us working on it, it's a very focused vision.
We want to be able to be really fast and nimble. Using Premiere is one of the ways that we do that.
As an editor, that's the most important thing to me, is that it gets out of the way and lets me edit.
We just love the program, and I feel like the show is better because of it. All right, so we can talk a little bit about our background first as editors. We kind of came from a world of DIY. Neither one of us went to film school. Totally self-taught. I learned on Final Cut Pro 7. Is that Final Cut Pro 7?
Final Cut as well.
And then I learned Avid, and so when Premiere Pro became a viable tool, it was pretty easy for me to switch over because they have the keyboard presets. You know, I can set the Final Cut keystrokes in there and all that.
Right, with 2 clicks you're able to match into keyboard presets from a piece of software you may have been using before, and then things just are pretty seamless from there.
Right. So I just started making my own stuff and discovered that editing was my favorite part of the process, and I got better at it, and people saw things I made, and people with money, and said, hey, you want to work on this, you want to work on that, and then the shows got professional, and then they got bigger and better, and then we wound up on Atlanta. And I think it's worth mentioning this because that's just sort of the vibe of the show in general. Donald, for instance, the writer's room it's not a number of seasoned TV staff writers on a movie lot somewhere. It's a handful of people that are at Donald's house writing the episodes. And production is sort of the same way. They have 9 days for 2 episode blocks, so they shoot each episode in 4.5 days. And then when we get into post, it's just a few people in a house. And so we sort of have that very do-it-yourself kind of lo-fi vibe for the entire show, to the point where sometimes we forget that we're making a TV show. Sometimes as we're finishing and mixing and doing things, we go, oh yeah, this is going to air on TV. So that's just, you can tell from the video too, just we eat lunch together, we take long lunches. It's a very mellow vibe.
We get to bring our dogs to work.
Yeah, lots of
the
dogs.
best.
There's as many dogs as people in the office. And I think that's the way Donald and the Hero like to work, is they want it to be very low key, because it lets us focus on the creative and not worry about network notes and outside pressure. So we can talk a little bit about production.
Yeah, let me talk a little bit about our process of getting the footage from set in Atlanta to our edit house.
We cut in LA. They shoot in Atlanta. So while they're gone for several months, we're getting dailies, and maybe talk through the dailies process
talk through that a little bit. So in Atlanta, our DIT on set with our DP Christian Springer, they create a look together. They transcode our media from the 3.2K Alexa Amira ProRes Quad RAW down to an edit-friendly 1080p with a look baked in from our director of photography. That footage is then sent via Aspera to us in LA, where me and Cameron, the other assistant editor, organize the footage. We drop markers, we select takes, we do everything that we can to help Kyle and Isaac hop into an edit, like fully, with all the footage, with everything in a nice, tidy fashion.
Yeah, and we're seeing stuff about, what would you say, a day and a half after they shoot it is when we start seeing daily. So we can flag any problems. We can call and say, did you intend this? Did you not shoot this on purpose? That's a big one. So when it comes to cutting the show, because they shoot in such a compressed amount of time, there's not a lot of footage. So the good news, bad news with the footage is it's all amazing. Hiro Murai, who directs the majority of the episodes, has such a great eye. Christian Springer, our DP, the way they work together, the footage we get is really next level. I work on a number of shows, and we don't get anything nearly as cinematic or as calculated as what they're doing. They're
There's a lot of intention, right?
Very much. There are no unmotivated camera moves. People are in the frame by themselves for a reason. This is not accidental, what they call spray and pray shooting. We're not fixing problems. We're not getting a bunch of stuff and figuring it out. These guys know what they're doing, and I think part of that is because of, like I said, the compressed time in which they have to shoot it. But also it's because these guys are just kind of next level in what they're doing. And so the footage that we get is fantastic. So the good news, bad news is the footage is great. The bad news is when it comes in, it's so good. It's very clear that it's our ball to drop, So like if the show's no good, it's not. Believe me, it's not their fault.
We didn't get bad ingredients. It's because we didn't put them on the plate right.
I mean, if we have a cast of ace pitchers, like there are not bad takes, and so that really puts the pressure on us to sort of bring it when we're putting the show together.
And so you saw in the video, we're all in this little house together. We use Slack to communicate with each other. Me and Cameron, the other assistant editor, are in a room together. You and Isaac are across the hall, and it just lends itself to a community vibe where we can kind of pop into each other's rooms, ask questions, show each other stuff. We all come together as a post group, post team to watch down editors' cuts and kind of weigh in.
Yeah, I think that's pretty atypical. When I'm finished with the cut, they're still in Atlanta shooting. We'll gather everyone from the office. We'll sit down in my bay and we'll watch an episode and we'll talk about it. Did this make sense? Did that track? Isaac will, when we're cutting, he'll come across the hall and say, hey, what was the preset you used for this sound, for that sound? We'll talk more about sound later because it's a really big component of the show, but it's a very collaborative vibe, and it's very much we're making it kind of for ourselves. And so it's like I said, I've worked on other TV shows, and this is very atypical, and this is far and away my favorite thing to make for that reason. I just feel like...
I mean, as an assistant editor, to get my voice heard, that's not usually the case. As an assistant, a lot of times, you're doing the technical work, you're doing the organization, it's kind of, shut up, where are my scenes? But on Atlanta, I feel very heard, and I really feel like that contributes to our end finished product, is that we all come together in this weird little space for a short amount of time
Right.
and value each other's opinions and come, make something
Right.
that's better.
And again, it goes back, I think, to just the way Donald wants to work and do his show. I don't think he's really interested in sort of, I don't know how to put this delicately. It's not that he doesn't care about outside influence. He's making the thing he wants to make. He's got the people that he wants to make it with, and that's what it is. Again, like the writers are a handful of his friends that write episodes. They're not getting network notes. They're not, I think it just makes the show sort of what it is. Something that I get asked a lot is how much time we have to cut an episode, it's hard to judge because they're in Atlanta for several months. We're sort of assembling as they're shooting, and we cut pretty close to camera. I'd say generally we have about 5-6 days to put together an episode, but because they're gone for a while, if I want to go back and tinker with stuff, I can. Again, pretty fast schedule even for TV. Let's talk about music and sound. Atlanta there's no score. We don't have a composer. So, and the show, for people who aren't familiar with it, it's not very plot driven. It's very much about texture and mood and vibe. And so because we don't have the safety net of score and music, we really spend a lot of time on offline sound. And this is my favorite part, actually, of using Premiere Pro, of how easy and how complex I can sound design things. So, for example, we don't have, again, it's a very low budget show. We don't have a lot of money. When we go to mix, we really need to give these guys a guide. I want it to sound as close to I actually want it to sound. I don't want to just sort of half-ass stuff and let them figure it out later. I want it to sound good.
You want to have creative intent
Right.
given to the mixer so that they can try to beat what you've done.
Right.
But we've sat with an episode for 2 months.
Right.
And we've tried stuff, we've made mistakes.
Right. Frankly, when on a show where it's very quiet and it's very slow and you don't have a lot of set pieces, things can sort of feel like they're just laying there if the sound isn't right. So I don't want to push that till 6 months later when we're in the mix. I want them to watch things and feel as though like this is what the show is going to feel like. So do you want to talk a little bit about, we really like the Essential Sound panel in Premiere Pro, and can you want to show a... Oh, this is a timeline, by the way. There's an episode, there's 206, is an episode called Teddy Perkins. And this is the timeline for Teddy Perkins. And if you want to just sort of give a general example of the essential sounds.
Yeah, so one of the things we do when we're temping in sound design in the offline edit is we want to, futz up a song so it sounds like it's coming out of the trunk of somebody's car, or you want to do somebody on the other end of a phone call type sound effect, or we'll do a lot of temp ADR where our actors will just record into their phone, temp out an ADR line so that we can cut it into the edit. And the Essential Sound panel and the tools that are in Premiere allow us to kind of temp those things in a way that's closer to final, so that when we're showing to the network, when we're showing to our EPs, they're not like blown away like, wait, what? That sounds awful.
Right.
We're able to blend those things in. And just a real quick kind of down and dirty demo of it, you select a piece of audio. So like what I'm selecting here is production sound. That's all our different lav mics and a boom mic from our sound mixer on set. You can then go over here to the right and you have different audio types that you can tag that audio as. So I could tag it as dialogue. And then Premiere has all these defaults built in from the radio, from the telephone, make it outside, make it inside. This allows us to take sound effects that are in our library or production sound and blend them into the show in a better way that helps get that creative intention across, so that when our sound mixer takes their way better pass at it, they're able to just kind of know what we're intending.
Right. And it's sort of a struggle too. So there's a lot of music in the show, but it's all diegetic. It's all in the scene. So we really want stuff to sound like it would sound. We want music coming out of phones and laptops does not sound good. Music that's coming out of a car trunk that's driving by has a very specific sound. And these are things that we can do in Premiere. I really like the effects panel itself because I can keyframe effects. I can also do all of this stuff without having to render audio. Those are big components for me. But when we get into the mix, it's usually, our mixers are great, but it's usually a battle. That should sound worse. That should sound worse. That's coming from this phone. We should barely be able to hear that. That should sound terrible. And so that's, again, part of the vibe of the show, making it feel real. And it's hard to tell a mixer, like, hey, this should sound bad. I can do things in Premiere. If a car is driving by, I can make it sound as though it's coming from the trunk of a car. I can put a Doppler effect on it so it sounds as though it's passing through. Those are things that because we don't have score, we sort of use that as score. We can use those as climactic moments, and we can use that to sort of, build scenes in a way that maybe isn't very obvious at first glance.
Yeah. I think this is a great example of where Premiere for us just kind of gets out of the way.
Right.
You're not banging your head against the wall trying to remember, like, which reverb is it and what should the setting be, or having to wait for a render to see if the reverb works. You can dial in those different parameters as you're playing back.
Right, exactly.
And oh, that sounds right now.
Right.
We're good.
Right.
Even when you're watching stuff down.
Something I really like, and this seems like a very minor thing, but when I'm playing back for Donald, if something is too loud or too quiet, I can turn it up and down in the timeline as it's playing without interrupting playback. And that seems like a really small thing, but that's a real time saver. When I have to go back after we watch and discuss to go right down this was too loud, that was too quiet, I can do it on the fly, and it saves me a ton of time. So yeah, those are, because sound is such a big thing for us. I can't imagine. I hate cutting things and then going like, we'll figure it'll sound right later. I hate doing that, right? Yeah, it's the worst. So in Premiere really is the program where you can make it feel as though like, yeah, this is it. We'll be in the mix, and a lot of what we do in the offline winds up in the final product. Of course they're sweetening it and normalizing it and doing it correctly, but they look at our stuff and go, oh, here's what they intended, and it's really obvious.
Yeah, and when we get to the turnover portion, I'll talk about how Premiere lets us carry those things all the way through the end.
Right.
But do you want to do?
Yeah, should we talk about our visual effects?
Yep.
We don't have, it's not a very VFX heavy show, but we do a number of things. Also, we do all of them in-house. We've done two seasons of the show. We've done 21 episodes. In season 1, there was a sequence with an invisible car where a guy's driving away in an invisible car and he hits a number of people who fly out of the way. That's the only thing that we've ever sent to like a real VFX house. We do everything ourselves. And granted, a lot of it is just, like in the video, phone comps. We do a lot of split screens for performance or timing, that sort of thing. We do all those ourselves, and it's easy just to pass things over to the AEs. We use dynamic link. Do you want to maybe
I'll
mention
talk about that a little bit. So our VFX artist is a guy named Eric Binmoller who works in-house with us. He does all of his work in After Effects. And so as an assistant editor, what I'm able to do is relink to our master media. I then render and replace in the timeline, which trims the clips for him. I'm then able to use the dynamic link, which is one button. It'll send it to After Effects with all of the temp work we've already done. And so if we've done a split screen where we've already tracked in a mask, or if we've done a stabilize, or we've added in muzzle flashes and blending layers, all of those things, he has access to those right away.
Right.
Which I assume saves him some time. Maybe he hates it and he wishes I wouldn't.
I'm sure he likes to see what we're doing.
But he gets to see our intention and then has an After Effects project right away.
Yeah.
Other shows I've worked on, we didn't have that option, so then I'm sending flat files and a reference video, and they're having to rebuild everything.
Right. And it takes forever.
It takes forever.
Well, we can show you an example though of a visual effect that we did in-house from this past season. In this episode, in 206, in Teddy Perkins, the episode starts with the character Darius, played by Lakeith Stanfield. He's driving out of town in a U-Haul. And we don't know why at the very top, but I wanted to use an overhead shot of him driving the U-Haul to see that he's leaving the city, that he's going far away. And I knew that the last day of production was the day that they were going to do drone shots, basically, city skylines, and they had a couple cars. So we called production and we said, hey, rent a U-Haul that day. When you're doing your drone shots of cars, get a U-Haul driving out of town. I'm going to slug in. That's going to be the title card of the episode. They said, great, no problem. We'll get it. Of course, they didn't get it. So there was some talk. I said, okay, well, we can figure something else out. We tried other drone things. It didn't work. They said, maybe, okay, we'll rent a U-Haul in LA. We'll just do it in LA when we're done with production. Of course, nothing in LA looks like Atlanta, so that didn't seem realistic. So we called our VFX guy and we said, hey, what are the chances we have drone shots of other cars? What are the chances that you can make one of these cars a U-Haul? And he said, okay, I'll try it. So
what he did is he used some of these elements which were, sourced from, I'm assuming he either took photos or he, sourced these from a stock library of some kind.
I actually don't know where he got this stuff.
So he took these, and then I apologize, I am not a true VFX artist. I know a little bit. But he gave us his project file. And what you can see what he did.
So the shot that we got was a 4-door sedan that they actually shot for another episode that we wound up not using. So we had this shot.
So it's this kind of gray sedan. And what he was able to do is add in some shadow, elongate it.
The individual elements that he got of the truck. Right? And then we can show you.
And so then if I step back in here.
So here on the left is the shot that we got. And then here on the right is the actual shot that wound up in the show. And again, that's just something that we just did in-house. We're not sending it out to some giant VFX house that's doing 100 passes and we're giving notes to. We gave them that and we got that back, and that's what's in the episode. And so that's all just done in our little bungalow house. There's no,
So to talk about finishing and turnovers a little bit, that what I was talking about earlier as far as sound goes, we're able to, through Premiere now with the AAF export option, we can break out all of our sound effects, both as their raw, original state, but then also with the effects baked in from the offline edit. So our editor, our sound mixer and our sound editor have access to all of that work that we've done. They're able to reference the things we spent months working on, but then they also have access to the raw media, so they can take their own paths, use their own tools.
Right. Do it professionally.
Yeah.
Right. Do it the way it should sound.
Yeah. And then our talking about color a little bit. Our color is done at MPC with a colorist named Ricky, and out of Premiere, I'm able to online in the box to the master media as the assistant editor. I'm able to export out of Premiere directly for them. They receive EDL, XML, and the media.
Right.
They color it. It comes back to us for a QC, and then it goes off to Technicolor for tape layoff and closed captioning and all of that.
And there's not a lot of surprise when we get into color because our DP Christian is building a look with the DIT on set. So when we're getting the proxy footage that we're cutting with, it does have a LUT on it that looks similar to what it's going to look like. So that's nice to work with too because we can sort of feel out. They stop it down when they shoot it. They put a lot of grain on it later, so it's a very kind of dirty look. It's a dirty film look. But we see that right away when we're first cutting dailies.
We're working in the offline with a look that our DP's kind of already signed off on, which in my experience saves a lot of headaches when you're showing stuff to network, when you're showing stuff to EPs, people who maybe don't understand what the finished color is going to look like.
Is that going to look different?
Is that going to
hey, are we going to be able to hear that when we'll mix it. Is that going to look we'll color it.
Yeah.
That's a common.
So just anytime you can save those headaches, you can then focus on the creative.
Right.
People aren't just like, oh no,
right.
It's logged footage. What does this look like? Or oh, it's Rec 709 and it's all blown out. People are able to see what the intention is, and then with that, they're like, just focus on the story.
Right. And that's sort of the bottom line with the show in general is that Creative Cloud, we make the whole show with Adobe. Everything is done with Adobe products until we're finishing. And so everyone they see what the show is. They understand what it is. There's no surprises. You're watching a rough cut. It's as close to the final thing as you're probably going to get until it goes through all the professional passes. Yeah. So that's really it. we're hanging out. If you guys want to ask us anything about the show, we love talking about it, and
Yeah.
we could tell you some Lakeith Stanfield stories that are pretty wild. But yeah, that's it. So thanks for coming out. Thanks for listening, and thanks for watching the show. If you're watching.
Thank you. Ah.